Welcome to episode 2 of Legends of DE, the series where we look at the defining players of the Age of Empires 2 S-tier tournament scene since the release of the definitive edition back in 2019. Today, we'll be diving into the data of one of AOE2's most beloved players, ACCM. ACCM has been around a long time. His first AOE2 S-tier tournament was all the way back in 2012, and at 36 years old, ACCM is still a consistent figure in AOE2 S-tier tournaments. Only Hera, the Viper, Leary, Yo, Tato, and Doubt have played more S-tier tournament games than ACCM since the release of the definitive edition. As we can see from his progression, ACCM has a steady record over the years and generally tracks at just under 50% for individual game win rate, but his series win rate is only a little over 40%. This shows that ACCM stays in series and often takes his opponents the distance, but struggles to take the extra step to win a series. ACCM is known for his never say die attitude, famously refusing to resign until he's at least 5,000 score behind in the game. In the LingYuan Cup, he played a 4-hour epic with Hera where he didn't resign until he was 30,000 score behind. What makes ACCM special though, besides being able to take games to their absolute limit, is his strategic prowess and oftentimes off-meta picks. As we will discover looking into his data, ACCM has an excellent track record with specific civs and with specific maps. ACCM has a few statistical outliers compared to the average. An interesting data point is looking at ACCM's most played civs sorted by win rate percentage difference against the average win rate percentage. This data allows us to see which civs ACCM has a particular affinity with compared to the rest of the S-tier player base. What is interesting here is that ACCM seems to thrive with civs where the average S-tier player struggles. Humans, Bengalis, Lithuanians, and Aztecs all track under a 50% win rate in S-tier tournaments, whereas ACCM has an excellent record. On the other side of this, ACCM has a much lower win rate with the most played civs like Maya, Chinese, Byzantines, Persians, Mongols, and Japanese, as well as more map specialist civs like Bohemians and Armenians. We do have to be cautious not to make any conclusions when the sample sizes are so small. We are talking about 10 to 20 games here, but if we look into ACCM's games with some of these civs, we can see some evidence that ACCM has beaten some very notable players with his best civilizations. With the Cumans, ACCM has taken some big names, including Hera, Tato, Winchester, and Hart. These games are usually on closed maps, as you'd expect with the Cumans' ability to build another TC in Feudal Age, giving them an eco advantage in early Castle Age. The only players who have been able to stop ACCM with the Cumans are Doubt, Tato, and Winchester. With the Bengalis, ACCM has a top-tier hit list, taking games off Leary twice, the Viper, Tato, Velez, MBL, Hart, and Nikov. He has also used them on a mix of hybrid and closed maps, and his losses with the Bengalis are also generally against the top players, including the Viper, Yo, Tato, and Sito. This trend of taking games off the top players continues with the Lithuanians, where ACCM has victories against Hera, the Viper twice, Winchester, and Sito. His losses with this civ were mainly to Hera twice and Yo twice. This data shows us that with his best civs, ACCM can more than hold his own with the best in the world. In fact, this trend is a running theme throughout ACCM's data. We saw in my Who Can Challenge Hera in 2026 video that ACCM is very capable of taking games off the top 5, but what he struggles with is series wins. If we look at players who have played at least 20 games versus the top 5 in the DE era, the top 5 being Hera, the Viper, Leary, Yo, and Tato, ACCM has a very respectable record in the same company as Winchester, Velez, Tato, Jordan, and Doubt when it comes to game win rate, but when we look at his series win rate, this drops dramatically, and this is what stops ACCM from taking the next step forward towards the top 5 to 7 players. When it comes to the generally most played civs like the Chinese, Maya, Mongols, Persians, Byzantines, etc., I looked into this data and couldn't find anything particularly interesting. Largely, ACCM beats the players he should beat with these civs and loses to the players who should probably beat him. It did take some time to find some interesting data in his played against too. For the most part, when playing against the majority of these civs, ACCM largely beats who he should beat and loses to who he should lose to based on player level. There are a couple of notable exceptions though. Against the Italians on water and hybrid maps, ACCM has used a variety of civs to defeat notable players using the Italians, including the Viper, playing as the Koreans and Japanese, Hart playing as the Bengalis and Malians, Hera playing as the Portuguese, Winchester playing as the Ethiopians, and MBL playing as the Bengalis. He also seems to have a good idea on how to play versus the Khmer, using the Maya versus Liri, Winchester using the Romans and Berbers, Tato with the Malians, and Doubt with Inca. These wins versus Khmer have come on a variety of maps and map types, as well as a variety of civilizations. In terms of who ACCM is particularly bad against, again the data isn't too exciting because the games he loses are generally to the top 5 or the top 10, so when trying to find extremes in this data, it's hard to be critical of ACCM's use of a civ when the players he loses to are amongst the best in the world. If we want to find a civ ACCM is particularly bad with or against, we'd want to find civs where ACCM has lost a significant number of those games against players he would generally beat. But there just isn't that much of this data. What this suggests is that ACCM doesn't have many civs that he is particularly bad with or against when it comes to S-tier tournaments. This could mean a number of things, like ACCM is a very well-rounded player, or his civ and map drafting process is excellent and he knows how to give himself the best chance of winning games. This also highlights a level of consistency in ACCM's game. If you look at ACCM against a player outside of the top 10, there is unlikely to be an upset in the series. But the same is true for when top 5 players play ACCM. Regardless of how close the series is, generally the top 5 player will take it home. When it comes to map types, ACCM is at its best on nomadic starts with a 60% win rate. In fact, the only player that causes ACCM any problems on this match is Winchester, who is responsible for 5 of ACCM's 11 losses on nomadic maps. ACCM has taken wins off Hera, the Viper, Liri, Winchester, and Hart on nomadic maps. And while statistically chaotic maps are his weakest map type, there is very little data with just 6 games, and all of those losses came to Hera, Winchester, and Doubt, so it's hard to be too critical there. On specific maps, ACCM has taken wins from top 5 players on Nomad, Fortress, and Evacuation. On Evacuation, ACCM has only ever lost to Hera in S-tier tournaments. He has 2 wins versus Liri on Fortress and has a collection of top 10 to 15 players on Nomad. ACCM does seem to struggle more on traditionally common maps like Arabia, Arena, Enclosed, and Fortified Clearing. Against the player base as a whole, ACCM has a respectable record against most players. Outside of the top 5, ACCM has only ever really struggled against Jordan and Sito, who seem to be his bogey players. Of players where ACCM has played at least 3 series, he has only ever failed to take a series from 5 players in the DE era: Hera, Liri, Yo, Sito, and Jordan. Though he has 100% records against Dogao, Kapoch, and Vivi, and a strong record versus Hart. What is interesting about data is it can sometimes tell us things we didn't know, but it can also tell us things we kind of already suspected. ACCM is easily a top 10 player who struggles to break into the top 5. Despite this, he is still very competitive against the top 5, and I can't imagine any of the top 5 relish playing ACCM. ACCM is known for his great strategies and tight builds, and when he executes these right, he is a formidable player. His determination to stay alive and fight on can also frustrate opponents and create mistakes that allow him to come back into the game and turn the tide. Every player knows that coming up against ACCM is rarely going to be clean and straightforward, and that reputation is an advantage in itself. I think everybody wants to see ACCM take his game to the next level to challenge the top 5 players, but at 36 years old, that might be too much to ask at this stage of his career. Despite this, I have no doubt that ACCM will continue to entertain us for many years to come. Thank you for watching this video, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more of this content.